radical form, you would actually say, okay, this is 5 squared, and raise it to that 1/3 power. And so really that's like saying the cubic root of 5 squared, right? Remember, if there's ever this like little fraction dude chilling out here, that's where he's going to go. He's going to go in this little like cubby hole for the radical, okay? I want you to keep in mind though, this is the way that you're going to have to write it into your, or type it into your calculator. You can't type it this way into your calculator. You got to do it this way. That's why this is kind of important to know, is because when you do type it into your calculator, you got to put it in this way. Okay? So today we're going to talk about the relationship between radical expressions and rational exponents. So kind of the same concept of what we did for the past like 2 days, but we're just kind of continuing on. So think back to what we just did. We said 5 to the 2/3 power, and then we brought to the 2 different ways to write it. Okay? Use this thinking to rewrite the following 2 numbers in equivalent ways. So I'm going to do this first one for you. So we can do 4 to the 3rd power, and raise that to the 1/2 power, because that 1/2 is coming from that number that's on the bottom, right? Or we can say 4 raised to the 1/2 power, and we can raise it to the 3rd power. Okay, those are the same thing. If I multiply 3 times 1/2, it's the same thing as saying 1/2 times 3. So go ahead and take a moment, and I want you to try this one. Okay, so if you take this and you write in the 2 different ways, you can say 3 to the 4th power, and you're going to raise it to the 1/5 power. Or you could say 3 to the 1/5 power, and you could raise it to the 4th power. Okay? All right. So in a similar way, we can rewrite the expressions that contain radicals. So we're going to write this using radical notation. Now, what I always like to do is I like to break it down just like what we had a second ago. We've got 2 to the 2nd power. Well, I learned from yesterday that if we have anything raised to the 1/3 power, it's going to be in that radical form. We're going to put a little 3 in this little cubby hole. And then we've got 2 to the 2nd power. No, we don't keep the 1. Really, that 1 is going to be what the exponent is for this guy right here. If I really wanted to write this true, I could write it like this. It would be a little weird, but I guess you could write it like that. And that 1's going to disappear because you're going to multiply your exponents. Yep. Yeah, you can't put it in this way. You would have to type it in this way. So if is that a Casio? Yeah. So you can do it on a Casio, but like a TI-83, which is probably what you want to use. Because we're going to be able to graph on that one a little bit more. That doesn't allow you to do it though. Okay, so just because it happens on one doesn't mean it happens on for all of them, okay? So you want to know both relationships so that you can import it in, okay? Good catch though. All right, so let's talk about B. So you've got the cubic root of 8 raised to the 2nd power. So I'm going to write this out using exponents. So keep in mind, we've got this cubic root, which really is just like raising something to the 1/3 power. So this is 8 to the 1/3 power, and we're going to raise it to the 2nd power. Okay? I'm going to multiply my exponents, so that's going to give me 8 to the 2/3 power. Boom, done. Okay? And then on C, it says, what is the value of the 4th root of 9 squared? There are 2 different ways you can do this, okay? The first way you can do this is you can say 9 squared is 81. And now I've got to find the 4th root of 81. Okay, so you can type this into your calculator by doing 81 raised to the 1/4 power. Or, this is my personal favorite, I could write this out as exponent form, or with exponents. So that's going to be 9 to the 2nd power raised to the 1/4 power. Now I'm going to multiply my exponents. So that's going to give me 9 to the 2nd over 4. And y'all know what 2 divided by 4 is. Well, that's 1/2. Well, what's 1/2 of 9? Or I'm sorry. What's the square root of 9? And if you plug this into your calculator, you're going to get 3. Okay? This way I really didn't have to use a whole lot of calculator. This I would have to. Because I don't know what the 4th root of 81 is off the top of my head. So he's talking about how 3 cubed is going to give me 27, and then 3 to the 4th power would give me 81. But you would have to know your exponents, and you would also have to know, like, okay, 3 squared and 3 to the 1st power. But hopefully you do know that. But if you don't, those are the 2 different ways you can do it. But I like that thinking. All right, so I want you to take a second, and I want you to figure out all the possible ways you can express the number 16. So most of these are going to be able to simplify down to 16. Okay, they're just different ways of writing it. So I want you to take a moment, try these on your own, and then we're going to go over it in just 1 second. Okay, so on the first one, we got 4 squared. Hopefully at this point in your career, your math career, you know that that's 16. And if you don't, you got a calculator, right? Okay, so on B, we've got 16, the cubic root of 16 raised to the 3rd power. So I can rewrite this as 16 raised to the 3rd power and raise that to the 1/3 power. So if I multiply these exponents, I'm going to get 16 to the 1st power. Well, isn't that just 16? Yeah. Okay. On part C, I've got 4 raised to the 8th power, and I'm raising that to the 1/4 power. Well, 8 times 1/4 is 2, or 8 divided by 4 is 2. 4 squared is going to give me 16. Okay. D, you've got 2 raised to the 12 divided by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4, so 2 to the 4th power. Well, that's 2 times 2 times 2, which is going to give me 16. On E, we've got 4 raised to the 9 raised to the 1/3 power. So 9 times 1/3 is going to give me 3. So 4 to the 3rd power, is that 16? No. So that one's not included. On the last one, got 2 raised to the 20 power, and we're going to raise that to the 1/5 power. Well, what's 20 times 1/5? 4. So 2 to the 4th power, which we already know is 16. Okay. So hopefully that went pretty smoothly. If not, can you think of another equivalent fraction using what you know about fractions as exponents? So I want you to think of an example that equals 16 that's kind of written out like one of these. Okay? Don't do one that's already here. But I want you to come up with your own example of something that is equal to 16. Take a moment, think about it. So, which ones did you come up with that were the same? So I'm going to number these, and I want you either in the chat box or just shout them out. Tell me which ones are, the same or grouped together. And you don't have to get all of them in one thing. You can tell me just 2 if you want to start off that way. So which ones went along together? 2 and 5. You sure? Because on 2, we've got, well, let's do this. Let's simplify all of them, and then we can kind of group them. Does that work? Okay, so 3 squared is going to be 9, right? On number 1, we've got 3 raised to the 4th power, and we're going to raise that to the 1/2. So 4 times 1/2 is really going to give us to the 2nd power. So really this is 3 to the 2nd power. Well, aren't these the same thing then? Yeah, they both equal 9. So I'm going to circle this one in blue and this one in blue. 9 are going to be in blue. Okay? Let's try number 3. We got 3 to the 1/2 raised to the 4th power. So if we multiply our exponents, we're going to have 3 to the 4 divided by 2. Well, 4 divided by 2 is just 2. So we've got 3 squared, which is the same thing as what we just did. Okay? Somebody else said something. Okay, so somebody said 1 and 9. Okay, so let's look at 1 and 9. Okay, so if we have 3 to the 4 divided by 2, that can be simplified down to 3 squared, which is the same thing as 1, which is right. We've also got, somebody said 4 and 12. Okay, so let's work on that. So on 4, we've got 3 raised to the 2nd power raised to the 1/2 power. Well, if we multiply those exponents, that's going to give us 3 to the 2 over 2, which is going to give us just 3 to the 1st power. Okay, so that's going to be in its own category. All right. And then we've got 12 is what somebody else said. And so we have 1/2 raised to the 2nd power. So if we multiply that, that's going to give us 3 to the 1st power, which is the same thing as what we got on 4. So this is going to be 3. Okay, what else? Somebody said 7 was like 1. 7 was a little tricky for some people. So let's talk about this one. If you break this down into kind of like pieces, you go 3 raised to the 2nd power, and you're going to raise that to the 1/2, and you're going to repeat that over here, right? So let's look at this one. 2 times 1/2 is going to give us 1. So really this is 3 to the 1st power, and over here this is 3 to the 1st power. So what's 3 times 3? 9. Well, isn't that the same thing as 3 squared? Yeah. Okay. What about 8? Well, we've got 3 to the 6th power raised to the 1/2 power. So if I multiply my exponents, that's going to be 3 raised to the 6 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Well, 3 to the 3rd power is kind of on its own. That's going to be 27, right? Which is the same thing as 5. Okay? All right, so where does 6 belong? The red, green, or blue? Well, let's think about it. Somebody said red? Okay, so let's check it. So if I have 3 raised to the 2nd power, and I'm raising that to the 1/2, multiply those exponents, that's going to be 3 to the 1st power. Well, 3 to the 1st power is that red. Okay? On 10, if we simplify this, we're going to get 3 raised to the 6th power, and we're going to raise that to the 1/2. 6 times 1/2 is going to give us 3, so 3 to the 3rd power, which is in green. And on the last one, and I know everybody avoided this one because I was like, I don't want to do it. If you change these to exponents, it makes it a little bit easier. So if I got 3 to the 1/2 power, and over here I've got 3 to the 5/2 power. Well, what do we know about multiplying bases that are the same? We're going to add our exponents. So what's 1 plus 5? 6, and we're going to keep the bottom. So this is going to be 3 to the 6 divided by 2, which is 3 raised to the 3rd power, which is the same thing as number 5. Okay, comments, questions, concerns, inquiries. It says, what is 2 raised to the 5/3 raised to the 3rd power? So really this is saying 2 raised to the 5/3 raised to the 3rd power. You multiply your exponents, 5 divided by 3 times 3, these will cancel out. So really you just have 2 to the 5th power. On number 2, you've got 2 raised to the 5/3 power. Really this is like saying 2 to the 5th power, and 3 is going to go in this little cubby hole. What 2 whole number powers of 2 does 2 to the 5/3 come between? Well, what is 5/3 as a decimal? It's 1.6. 1.6 is in between 1